Welcome back to the Weekend Report. I'm Masachaba Mposwa. The Department of Defence and Military Veterans this week told Parliament that it's considering setting up a commission of inquiry into the deaths of SANDF soldiers in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Deputy Defence Minister Bantu Holomisa said a full briefing on the SADC mission will be provided once the withdrawal of troops is completed. Let's discuss this now with independent defence analyst Kobus Marais. Kobus, good morning. Welcome to Newzroom Afrika.
Good morning, and good morning to your viewers.
Firstly, do you believe a judicial commission of inquiry would be more effective in uncovering the truth behind the SANDF casualties in the DRC?
Well, I think there's no doubt that we need an official board of inquiry or a judicial board of inquiry. I think that's the right thing because there's a lot of things that happened and that has led up to the president deploying the soldiers, which I have always said, even when I was still a member of the Joint Standing Committee on Defence for 9 years, that there was no justification, real justification for the SAMI DRC deployment, that it was never in the real interest of South Africa as the most southern member of SADC, and there was no threat to our national integrity. And obviously, when you lose one life, it is one life too many. There are families in South Africa that has been affected by that. That is normally the breadwinner of the household that has been in the Defence Force and especially serving in the DRC. So there's no doubt that we need a board of inquiry and an official judicial board of inquiry. That's the only way that we can, have some closure afterwards. And then if someone, even if it is the president or the minister or the leaders of the SANDF who has made those decisions to deploy soldiers without proper support, without proper equipment, without air support in such an hostile area, because eventually, a number of years ago, we were instrumental with the help of Oryx and the especially Rooivalk helicopters. We defeated the M23s, and now the table was turned, and we were defeated, and it is an embarrassment to South Africa. It is an embarrassment to our foreign image and standing, especially in Africa. So yes, we need something, and we need hopefully accountability and consequences to those who has made incorrect decisions and putting unnecessarily the lives of soldiers at risk.
All right. Speaking of consequences, do you think that the SANDF's decision to conduct a board of inquiry after the withdrawal of troops from the DRC is a sufficient response to the casualties sustained?
Well, I don't think it's a sufficient response, but it's certainly a start. And normally when there is something like this happened, and we don't need a Defence Force board of inquiry, because then it is the colleagues who's investigating and holding their colleagues accountable. That is not good enough. I've experienced many times in the past, especially with the Ops Tosano and the illegal transportation of Cuban drugs in, what was it, 2020, and for them to hold themselves, their own colleagues accountable, that doesn't work. So you have to go the further route. In that case, I personally went to the police and laid a complaint, and that is now investigated, criminally. And also the public protector as in that stage investigated. But what I've experienced at that stage, the military ombudsman was not prepared to investigate their own colleagues. So, the Defence Force can do their own investigation, but that is not adequate. They will not hold themselves accountable, and we need an independent judiciary board of inquiry to really, bring them to the court, and if necessary, prosecute those who have made wrong decisions and irresponsible decisions, and also waste a lot of money.
Right. Kobus, what role do you believe that the SANDF's command structure played in the incidents leading to the deaths of the 14 soldiers? And how can accountability be ensured?
Well, they made the decisions finally to support and to make first of all to make the recommendation to the president that they are adequately resourced and adequately equipped to do the job. And I think based on that, the president made the decision to deploy the soldiers. I think it was ill-advised. And it was only the Defence Force leadership, and that means, the chief of the SANDF, the chief of joint operations, and also the Military Command Council. So those people at the highest rank must be held accountable. We cannot allow that lower ranks must take the responsibility, and that ordinary soldiers must pay with their lives for ill-advised decisions to deploy, where we should have never, ever allowed that and agreed to those deployments. I mean, the fact that we have put so much pressure on the Defence Force leadership, and especially after the 14 deaths earlier this year, that we need to recall our soldiers, I think that has made an enormous played an enormous role for them to be withdrawn. So yes, there's no doubt. I mean, they must be held accountable.
All right. So I do understand when you say that you feel that this was an ill-advised move. But do you think that the SANDF's deployment in the DRC has been effective, at least, in achieving its mandate?
When you talk about the deployment in the DRC, you must differentiate between the MONUSCO deployment and the SAMI DRC. Now, I suppose I assume you refer to the SAMI DRC deployment, and in my opinion, there was never, ever any justification for that. There was never, ever, the resources being given, and especially the air support, which is essential for any deployment in an hostile area. We have lost a helicopter earlier, when was it, last year, and people were died in that helicopter attack. So there's no doubt that it is a highly, highly hostile environment. I have been privileged to be part of an oversight visit in 2018 to the DRC, to North Kivu, and where we were escorted by Rooivalk helicopters all the way into that red triangle and red zone. So it's a very, very hostile situation, and SAMI DRC was never, ever justified. It was never affordable to South African Defence Force and our taxpayers, and we should have never, ever, ever be deployed under SAMI DRC. MONUSCO is a different story. We've been there for many, many years. That was a much better equipped and supported deployment. And we know that the United Nations have at one stage decided to withdraw from the DRC with the outbreak, when was it, from last year. They decided to stay on for longer. But that's a different story. But SAMI DRC was a disaster from the beginning, and there was never, ever any national interest and the protection of our integrity involved in that decision. It was never well equipped and resourced and logistical support provided. So that is, SAMI DRC is unforgiven.
Kobus, very briefly, how do you think that the terms of reference for the proposed JCI should be drafted to ensure a thorough and transparent investigation?
Well, I believe that such a board of inquiry or a judicial board of inquiry should have access to all the confidential information, to all the decision-making minutes and declarations, to all the recommendations that they made to the president for that decision to deploy under SAMI DRC, to all the information from the presidency on the justification and the motivation for doing that. I acknowledge that some of that information will be confidential and sensitive, but a judicial board of inquiry must have carte blanche, that they can, even if it's necessary to subpoena people to come and give evidence. It cannot only be Defence Force people, but it also cannot only be the leadership. You need to have people that were on the ground, that were experiencing what happened and how their lives were turned upside down. Because it's not only the 14 lives that we have lost, but it was a most embarrassing situation for the South African Defence Force image in Africa and in the world. We have hardly ever experienced such an embarrassment, and we've seen, the South African Defence Force falling from a high position of being capable of doing such operations to one who is now basically coming back home with their tails, between their legs. So it is embarrassing, and people must be held accountable. And if that means that they need to be prosecuted and sent to jail, so be it.
All right.
There must be consequences.